Have you ever noticed that the loudest person in the room is often the weakest? Always talking, constantly trying to prove something, endlessly chasing validation. But the strongest person, the one who moves in silence, that's the one who truly succeeds. Life has a way of handing you exactly what you need at precisely the right time, but only if you learn how to be still. Only if you learn how to quiet your mind. Only if you trust the unfolding process. Because when you stop forcing things, when you stop pleading, when you stop justifying yourself to people who never cared to understand you in the first place, that's when life starts shifting in your favor. The right things align, the right people remain, the wrong ones fade on their own. All you have to do is be still, silent, and let it unfold. Silence is power, not just the lack of sound, but the presence of clarity and awareness. The moment you resist the urge to explain, to defend, or to convince others of your worth, especially those who never earned your energy, is the moment you reclaim your strength. You begin to hear not just what's said, but what isn't. You feel the energy in the room. You sense the motives beneath the surface. You catch the truth hidden under all the noise. Most people can't handle silence. They fear it. They speak to fill the void. They speak because they feel unseen or because they think louder voices are stronger ones. But true strength doesn't announce itself. It moves with restraint. It's found in patience. It's in the discipline to pause, to watch, to understand before reacting. Think of the people who command your respect. The leaders, the visionaries, the ones whose presence is undeniable. They don't waste words. They don't clutter silence with empty noise. They don't try to impress with exaggerated claims. When they speak, people listen. Why? Because their words carry weight. And what gives those words weight is experience, intention, and wisdom. That's the real strength of silence. When you stop talking, you begin to truly hear, not just others, but yourself. You start discerning which thoughts truly matter. You begin catching the red flags you once overlooked. You see people for who they really are, not for who they pretend to be. But you can't do that if you're constantly speaking, performing, or trying to be understood. You lose the ability to notice, to analyze, to read between the lines. People will always show you who they are if you give them the space to. But most miss it because they're too busy proving something instead of paying attention. When you remain silent, you create room for the truth to rise. You don't need to ask if someone respects you, just observe. You don't have to beg for loyalty, just stay still and watch who shows up without needing to be chased. You'll see everything clearly when you stop over-explaining. You'll realize that most of the time your silence says more than your words ever could. Success in life isn't about how much you say, it's about how much you understand. When you listen more than you speak, you catch things others miss. You notice opportunities before they're obvious. You sense shifts before they become problems. You see intentions before they unfold. Stillness brings vision, and that vision is what separates the strong from the fragile. Think of a chess game. The best players aren't reckless. They don't speak their strategy aloud. They watch, they assess, they read the board, they wait for the right move. That's life. The ones who talk too much reveal their hand before they act. They expose their fears without even realizing it. But the quiet one, the observer, that's the one who remains 3 steps ahead. That's the one who wins in the long game. People respect silence more than noise. Anyone can speak, anyone can make bold claims, anyone can try to appear strong or important. But real power doesn't need to be loud. It's felt. It's recognized in presence, in behavior, in results. It's the ability to remain still and yet draw attention. The ability to command without raising your voice. That's power. When you stop talking, you begin to pick up on subtle cues. You notice the shift in someone's tone when they lie. You sense the hesitation when they aren't being sincere. You recognize contradictions between their words and energy. That level of perception, that depth of understanding, most people never reach. They're too caught up trying to be seen or heard, too busy filling silence instead of understanding what it reveals. There's a reason why the quietest people in the room are often the most powerful. They aren't quiet because they have nothing to contribute. They're quiet because they're analyzing, reading, watching. Because they know that sometimes words are noise, but silence is strategy. When you start listening more than you speak, you start filtering out the distractions. You recognize how much unnecessary talking exists. You realize how many arguments aren't worth your peace. How many explanations were never necessary. How many apologies you gave for things you were never wrong about. Silence saves you from reacting impulsively. It protects you from saying things in anger you'll later regret. It helps you walk away from battles that don't deserve your effort. It allows you to move with clarity, with purpose and precision. And when you embrace that, you naturally start distancing yourself from what drains you. You begin preserving your energy. You no longer feel the urge to respond to every insult, every doubt, every petty challenge, because real power doesn't argue. It just exists, unshaken, unapologetic, unbothered. Some of life's greatest wins come not from speaking, but from knowing when to hold your tongue, from allowing your work, your consistency, and your evolution to do the talking, from guarding your emotions, from refusing to let others control your reactions, because the moment someone knows how to trigger you, they hold the power. But when you stay grounded, when you respond with silence, that power returns to you. And in that stillness, you become unstoppable. It's not easy to remain quiet in a world that confuses volume with value. But real value, real influence, doesn't come from making noise. It comes from making impact, from having depth, from showing restraint. It comes from knowing when to speak and when to be still. When you embrace silence, you no longer seek validation. You no longer feel the need to announce your moves, because your presence alone begins to say everything for you. Desperation repels everything you want. The more you chase something, the more it avoids you. This applies to relationships, success, respect, everything. When you chase, you operate from lack. You radiate neediness, and nothing high value responds positively to desperation. Think about it. Have you ever tried catching a butterfly? The more you reach for it, the more it flutters away. But when you sit still, when you're calm and collected, it lands gently on your shoulder. That's how life works. The more you force, the more you push it away. But when you focus inward, when you stand in quiet confidence, what's meant for you gravitates toward you naturally. People are drawn to rarity. They're attracted to what feels valuable. But when you chase people, when you make yourself too accessible, you signal that your worth is negotiable. You show that you're willing to bend over backwards to keep them. And once someone senses that they matter more to you than you do to yourself, they lose respect. They test your limits, they pull away. But when you stop initiating every conversation, stop trying to prove your worth, that's when the dynamic shifts. That's when they notice your silence, they question your absence, and suddenly they're the ones chasing. Not because you manipulated them, but because you finally realized your own worth. The same principle applies to goals. The most successful people aren't the loudest. They aren't forcing opportunities. They're preparing. They're staying ready. They're putting in the work without needing an audience. And because of that, the right doors open without them banging on them. Look at those desperate to be liked, always trying too hard, constantly needing approval. It's exhausting. And it's transparent. But those who walk with quiet confidence, they draw people in. They don't beg to be noticed. They simply are. And that energy, that self-assurance is magnetic. Chasing is rooted in fear, fear of loss, fear of being alone, fear of inadequacy. But once you release that fear, when you finally believe you don't need to chase anything to be enough, everything begins to align. You carry yourself differently. You demand better. You stop accepting crumbs. You stop pleading for love because you now understand that real love, true connection, and meaningful success never require you to beg. When you stop chasing, you start attracting because you begin operating from a mindset of abundance rather than scarcity. You come to understand that what's meant for you will never require you to compromise your essence to maintain it. The right people will recognize your worth without needing constant reminders. The right opportunities will show up when you're truly ready. Not when you're desperate. It's not about playing games. It's not about ignoring people just to spark their interest. It's about truly grasping the fact that chasing isn't necessary when you're grounded in your own worth. When you're secure within, there's no need to force what's already aligned with your destiny. You don't need to plead for attention, affection, or effort. If someone values you, they'll make it known. And if they don't, chasing them would never have changed the outcome. Have you noticed how when you finally stop caring so much, things begin to fall into place? The job you let go of unexpectedly contacts you. The person who walked away suddenly reappears. The opportunity you thought had slipped through the cracks circles back. That's not coincidence. That's alignment. When you stop chasing and instead focus on your inner self, you regain control. Ironically, the more we try to control every outcome, the more chaotic things seem to become. But when we release that grip, take a step back, and redirect our attention inward, the right people, the right timing, the right paths, they arrive with ease. True strength isn't in the chase. It's in understanding that you never had to chase in the first place. There's deep power in staying quiet, in guarding your dreams, your strategies, your next moves. Not everyone is entitled to know what you're building. Not everyone should have access to your blueprint. Some people want to hear your plans just so they can inject doubt into your vision. Others want a front row seat to your life, not to cheer you on, but to exploit your journey. Some observe you only to use what they see for their own gain. Oversharing invites unnecessary energy into your space. Energy that drains you, derails you, or subtly undermines your confidence. Some people wear smiles but silently hope you fail. Your growth is a mirror, reflecting back to them everything they're avoiding in themselves. So they minimize your efforts. They question your ideas. They pretend not to understand, not because they're confused, but because they feel threatened. The more you speak on your goals, the more access you give others to tamper with them. But not every plan needs to be spoken. Not every vision should be shared. Some people only deserve to see the final result, not the process. Some should only hear about the outcome, not the blood, sweat, and time it took to get there. When you reveal your ideas too early, you allow others to interfere, to discourage, or to plant seeds of hesitation. So many dreams have died because they were spoken aloud too soon, shared with the wrong people. People who didn't believe, didn't care, or didn't want to see you go further than them. Silence protects what you're nurturing. It keeps your momentum focused. When you stop explaining your every move, when you keep your progress to yourself, you create a safe space to work undisturbed. No outside noise, no uninvited opinions, no pressure, just you and your mission. The most successful people don't broadcast every step they take. They grind in silence. They build in solitude. And by the time the world sees what they've created, it's already complete, too far developed to be stopped. That's how you need to move. Quietly, consistently, with discipline, without craving applause or approval. A lion doesn't roar all day to prove it's a lion. It just is. It moves with power, with certainty, with grace. You don't need to prove your worth. You don't need to explain your direction. Stay in your lane, put your head down, and let the results speak volumes. Too many people waste their precious energy trying to validate themselves to the wrong crowd, trying to convince others they're serious. But here's the truth. No one needs to believe in your dream but you. No one needs to grasp your vision except for you. When you truly trust in yourself, you stop seeking permission. You stop waiting for others to get it. You simply act. The greatest ideas, the most transformative businesses, the most revolutionary creations, they all started in silence. Before the world knew about them, they were shaped in the dark, away from noise, away from distractions, away from the doubters. And that's exactly the place where your next move needs to grow. The people who accomplish the most don't talk about what they're going to do, they do it. When you operate in silence, you protect your energy, you conserve your focus. You don't waste your time defending your decisions or justifying your vision. You preserve your peace. And when it's time to share what you've built, it's undeniable. People ask questions about your progress, not always to support, but often to compare. They want to know if you're ahead, if you're doing more, and the moment they sense that you are, they either try to discourage you or mirror your path. But when you stay quiet, they have nothing to latch onto, nothing to measure, nothing to sabotage. There's a reason why the most impactful moves in history were made quietly, why the most legendary breakthroughs were only shared once they were already done. Because when you operate behind the scenes, no one sees you coming. And that becomes your greatest leverage. Let them assume you've stalled. Let them wonder what you're up to. While they speculate, you're building. You're growing. You're preparing for something greater. And when the timing is right, when your work is complete, There won't be anything they can do to stop the wave, because by then it won't be about potential, it will be about performance. And performance needs no explanation. Patience is one of the rarest and most powerful traits a person can possess. But in a world obsessed with speed, instant gratification, and overnight success, patience is often mistaken for passivity. Society glorifies quick results. It teaches us that if something doesn't happen now, it won't happen at all. But that's not how lasting success works. The strongest, most enduring achievements are the result of time, consistency, and trust. When you lack patience, you make reactive choices. You compromise. You accept less than you deserve. You rush into relationships that aren't right. You take jobs that misalign with your purpose. You give up when you don't see fast progress. But when you honor the process, when you embrace that growth takes time, you choose differently. You don't grab what's available. You wait for what's meant. You stop settling. You trust that what's right won't require rushing or convincing. Look at the tallest structures in the world, the strongest bridges, the most solid foundations. They weren't thrown together. They were engineered with care, built over years, grounded deep before ever rising high. You can't shortcut the foundation and expect the structure to stand tall. The same is true for your life, your dreams, your mindset. A resilient spirit isn't built in a week. A meaningful relationship isn't forged in a few days. A thriving career doesn't emerge overnight. These things require patience, endurance, and unwavering trust, even when the evidence of progress isn't immediately visible. Patience is a form of discipline. It's the strength to keep going when nothing outside of you is affirming your efforts yet. It's the quiet belief that your hard work will pay off, even if it hasn't yet. It's the daily grind with no spotlight. It's the seed you water, even when you can't see it breaking through the soil. Too many people quit right before it gets good. They abandon their dreams because results don't come fast enough. But just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. The most critical growth happens beneath the surface. The roots dig deep, the foundation settles, and if you keep digging up what you've planted just because it's taking time, you'll never give it the chance to bloom. Patience isn't about sitting idle. It's not waiting and wishing, it's working and believing. It's trusting the delay while continuing to show up. It's resisting the urge to compare your journey to someone else's timeline. Society tells you that if you're not constantly progressing, you're falling behind. But the truth is, some things take longer because they're meant to last longer. They're being prepared with greater intention, and when they finally arrive, they'll be stronger, deeper, and more fulfilling than anything rushed. Patience also reflects self-mastery. It's easy to get anxious when progress feels slow. It's tempting to doubt yourself when others seem ahead. But when you're truly anchored in your purpose, you don't rush, you don't chase, you don't force. You align, you prepare, you build, you trust. Because when it's meant for you, it will arrive. And it won't require you to abandon your peace to receive it. When you stop forcing, you begin attracting. Because you start living from a place of abundance rather than from scarcity. You begin to see that what is truly meant for you will arrive in its own time, in its own way, and when you're truly prepared. You focus on doing your part, staying aligned, and allowing the results to unfold as they are meant to. The most grounded and successful individuals aren't the ones who race to the top. They're the ones who took the time to build steadily, with care, intention, and consistency. They knew that shortcuts often bring setbacks, rushing leads to regret, and impatience can cause you to settle for far less than you deserve. They understood that anything truly valuable is worth both the wait and the effort. Some of the greatest mistakes are born from impatience, walking away too soon, settling for less, acting on impulse instead of waiting for clarity. But when you cultivate patience, your decisions are wiser. You allow time to reveal the full picture. You avoid unnecessary stress because you've learned to trust that what is meant for you will arrive when it's supposed to. Trusting the process means recognizing that a delay is not a denial. Just because something isn't unfolding now doesn't mean it won't eventually. Some doors stay shut until you're genuinely ready to walk through them. Some opportunities don't come through because there's something more aligned ahead. And some challenges persist longer because they're refining you for what's next. But if you give up prematurely, if you walk away simply because it's taking longer than you imagined, You may never witness the blessings that patience was preparing you to receive. The strongest individuals aren't those who control everything. They are the ones who trust, who work, and who wait. They understand that when the timing is aligned, everything will fall into place exactly as it's supposed to. Silence remains one of the most underestimated forms of power. It is within silence that clarity surfaces. When you stop trying to explain your decisions, stop defending your actions, and stop justifying your path, people begin to show you who they truly are. Some will remain, some will slowly distance themselves, some will grow uncomfortable, and some may try to pull you back into familiar patterns where they held control. But if you maintain your silence, if you resist the temptation to over-explain, you'll start to uncover the truths that words were masking. Most people speak because they want validation, they want to be heard, to be understood, to have their perspective respected. But what happens when you choose silence? That's when people begin to reveal their real intentions. That's when you discover who was genuinely listening, who was simply pretending, who hoped you'd fail, and who never cared at all. When you over-explain, you provide others with access to your thoughts, your emotions, and your vulnerabilities. And some people aren't listening to support, they're listening to gather ammunition. They want you to defend your boundaries so they can challenge them. They want you to justify your growth so they can undermine it. They want you to open up so they can find a way in. But when you stay silent, you remove their leverage. Silence makes people uneasy because it forces them to confront themselves. When you stop chasing, it becomes clear who actually valued you. When you stop explaining, it becomes obvious who genuinely understood you. When you stop reaching out, you learn who truly cared about your presence. The ones who remain through your silence, those are the ones who matter. The ones who vanish, get upset, or try to guilt trip you into speaking, those are the ones who were only there to benefit from your energy. People reveal their true intentions when they're no longer being entertained. When you stop initiating, who still shows up? When you stop speaking, who listens without prompting? When you stop explaining, who seeks to understand you anyway? These are the questions that silence answers. The truth might sting, but it's liberating. Silence also reveals how much perceived control others had over you. Some individuals only respected you when they believed they were in charge. But when you stop engaging, stop feeding their need for power, they begin to panic. They accuse you of changing, of becoming distant or cold. But you didn't change. You just stopped playing along. You stopped giving them the reactions they depended on. You stopped explaining your worth to people who never truly saw it. When you explain yourself too often, you open the door for others to challenge you. You say why you're making a decision, and they try to convince you otherwise. You express a need for space, and they attempt to make you feel guilty. You set a boundary, and they treat it like a suggestion. But when you go silent, when you act without announcing every move, people have no choice but to respond authentically. They either respect your stance or they don't, and either way the truth comes out. Silence is a mirror. It reflects people's true intentions back at them. When you step back and stop justifying your every choice, people are left to confront themselves without your words blurring the picture. Some will finally realize they took your presence for granted. Others will come to terms with the fact that they never really valued you, and some will expose the truth. They were never supportive, just in control. Most people are addicted to noise, to distraction, conversation, and constant validation. They depend on ongoing communication to avoid confronting their own thoughts and behaviors. But silence takes all of that away. It strips the illusions. It forces reflection. That's why so many become uncomfortable when you stop explaining. In silence, they can't twist your words. They can't pretend they misunderstood. They can't manipulate your energy. They're left standing in their truth, and not everyone is ready for that. Silence preserves your peace. It allows you to watch without reacting. It gives you the space to think clearly before making a move. It reveals things hidden in the noise. Who honors your boundaries consistently, and who only follows them when convenient? Who checks in out of care, and who only reaches out when they need something? Who values you as a person, and who just values your attention? Some don't listen to understand. They listen to reply, to debate, to twist your message for their benefit. The moment you go silent, they lose their grip. And that's when you see if they were ever truly there for you or just there to control a version of you that talked too much. Silence reveals who respects you even when you're not explaining yourself, who supports you even when you're not defending your actions, who still shows up even when you're not seeking validation, because real connections, be it in love, friendship, or family, don't demand constant justification. They exist in trust. They thrive even in the quiet. They don't vanish just because you've gone still. Those who constantly require an explanation never really understood you to begin with. Those who grow resentful when you stop justifying your choices were only ever comfortable when they were in control. And those who disappear the moment you stop talking, they were never invested in you, just what they could get from you. Silence is not weakness. It is not avoidance. It's not a failure to communicate. Silence is intentional. It is protective. It is powerful. It's a conscious strategy to preserve your energy, reveal what's hidden, and gain clarity. Because the people who are truly meant to be in your life won't demand endless explanations. They will understand you without words. They will respect your quiet. They will stay even when there's no applause, no reassurance, no noise. The truth always finds its way through the silence. And when you finally learn to embrace it, you'll see everything clearer than you ever did before. Validation is like a silent addiction. It can rule your decisions without you even realizing it. It starts subtly, the desire to be liked, to be praised, to be seen. And soon you're living a life curated for applause. You wear certain things for approval. You speak in certain tones to fit in. You pursue goals that aren't even your own, chasing titles and milestones just because society says they matter. And somewhere along the way, you lose your authenticity. The need for validation is one of life's deepest traps. It keeps people from growing. It keeps them afraid to disappoint others, afraid to stand out, afraid to walk alone. Because when you're constantly chasing approval, you're giving away your power. You let others define your worth. You let their opinions shape your direction. And slowly, you stop living for yourself. But true power doesn't beg to be noticed. It doesn't need to be confirmed by others. It doesn't wait for applause. The people who hold real strength, real respect, real presence, they move quietly. They act boldly without seeking permission. They don't have to be understood to feel valid. They don't explain their every step. They don't perform for approval. They live in alignment with who they are, not who the world expects them to be. And in that quiet confidence, they become undeniable. They just are. And when you stop seeking validation, you elevate to a whole new level of respect, not just from others, but from yourself. When you truly recognize your value, your energy shifts. You stop waiting for confirmation before making decisions. You stop leaning on likes, comments, applause, or attention to feel important, because you already know your worth. And once you realize that, there's no need to prove it. People respect those who don't chase attention. They admire those who don't need constant reassurance. They're drawn to those with quiet, unshakable confidence. Because deep down, everyone understands that real power doesn't scream. It simply exists. It doesn't need an audience to validate it. It doesn't need approval to hold space. It just is. Look at the most influential, respected individuals. They're not the ones always clamoring for attention. They're not waiting to be told they matter. They put their heads down and do the work. Seeking validation is a weakness. When you depend on others to confirm you're enough, you hand them the control over your self-worth. What happens when the attention stops? When no one notices? When the applause fades? When the response vanishes? Reliance on external approval leaves you vulnerable. You'll start doubting yourself. You'll second-guess every move. You'll shrink back. But when you validate yourself, nothing can shake you. No critique can topple you. No silence can stop you. No rejection can dent your belief, because your confidence is rooted in an unshakable truth. You are enough, capable, and worthy, with or without outside recognition. There's nothing wrong with wanting appreciation. It feels good to be acknowledged. But once you need it, once you depend on it, you become a prisoner of opinion, and that's the fastest route to losing yourself. Real power doesn't chase limelight. The world honors those who stand with quiet determination, those who don't seek validation to confirm their path, those who are so engaged in their mission they have no time to ask for approval. That's real strength. That's real confidence. That's true influence. When you stop seeking external validation, your energy transforms. You stop hesitating, you stop over-explaining, you stop dimming your light for others' comfort. You step into who you are unapologetically. That is when people start to respect you, because confidence is magnetic, self-assuredness is disruptive, and nothing is more intimidating than someone who knows their worth and won't back down. Think about the people who inspire you the most, the ones with that quiet strength. They don't beg for attention, but attention inevitably finds them. They don't need approval because their actions speak louder than words. Respect is earned, not by asking for it, not by seeking it, but by living in a way that demands it, by showing up for yourself, by proving to yourself that you're capable, by refusing to shrink, beg, or play small just to be accepted. The moment you stop looking for validation, everything shifts. Your decisions become confident, your boundaries firm, your focus unbreakable, your presence undeniable. People sense it. They may not voice it, but they feel it, because real power doesn't require applause. It doesn't need approval to exist. It just is. And when you fully embrace that, you become unstoppable. Absence is a powerful teacher, too. It reveals what words can't. It shows what explanations can't. It forces others to feel what they once took for granted. When you're always there, always available, always giving, people tend to overlook your value. They assume you'll always be there. They take your kindness for granted. But the moment you step back, the silence begins to speak. They feel the warmth missing. They miss the support. The calls stop. The effort fades, and suddenly they realize what's gone. Absence forces reflection. It awakens awareness. It compels people to confront the gap you left, not through conversations or arguments, but through the emptiness where you used to be. The presence becomes a privilege only noticed once it's absent. It's easy to overlook what's always there, but when it's gone, the emptiness becomes undeniable. Absence exposes priorities. If someone truly values you, they'll act, they'll step up, they'll show up. They'll say, I noticed you're gone and I want you back. But if they never valued you, silence won't matter. You can't force someone to appreciate you. You can't make them understand your worth by constantly reminding them. The more you explain, the more they resist, the more you chase, the more they drift. The more you give without acknowledgement, the more they take without even thinking. But when you step back, withdraw your energy, stop the performance, let silence speak, they're left with their own thoughts, and those thoughts will reveal their understanding or the lack of it. Sometimes the hardest lesson is learned through loss. Sometimes people don't get it until they feel the absence. And if they didn't care enough to see your value before, your absence will tell you everything. You don't owe anyone the job of proving your worth. It's not your responsibility to convince someone of your value or to beg for appreciation. If someone can't see what you bring while you're present, absence will either open their eyes or it'll show you they never truly cared in the first place. Either way, you gain clarity. Absence is a powerful filter. It removes those who were only there for convenience. It separates the ones who genuinely cared from those who simply enjoyed the advantages of your presence. It reveals who is sincere and who is merely taking from you. It compels people to reveal their true motives without you needing to say a word. Because if someone doesn't fight for you when you pull away, if they don't miss you when you're no longer around, then your presence never truly mattered to them. And if that's the case, why invest more time? Why hold on to someone who stayed out of habit, not heartfelt care? Why continue giving energy to someone who wouldn't even notice if you disappeared? When you take a step back, when you go silent, when you allow absence to speak for you, you offer others the opportunity to reveal their truth. If they care, they will feel the shift. If they love you, they'll reach out. If they value you, they won't let you fade away without trying. But if they do nothing, if they let you go effortlessly, then the answer is clear. Absence isn't about playing games. It's not about manipulation. It's about perspective. It's about stepping aside so others can reveal who they really are. It's about honoring your energy, respecting yourself enough not to chase attention, and giving people space to show their real position in your life. Some only recognize your value when they're forced to experience life without you, and when that moment arrives, they will either fight to bring you back into their world, or they will let you slip away. Either outcome gives you clarity, and with clarity comes freedom, because ultimately you deserve to be in spaces where you're appreciated, not merely tolerated. And absence has a unique way of making that truth impossible to ignore. Trusting the timing of your life is essential in today's world where everything moves rapidly. We're constantly urged to hurry, to keep up, to achieve more, to succeed faster. We live in a culture that glorifies instant gratification, a world where waiting is seen as weakness and patience is undervalued. But nature teaches us a more profound truth. It reminds us that everything worth having takes time. Growth is a process. Life unfolds in seasons, and timing is not something we can control. Just like the seasons change at their own pace, just like trees grow on their own schedule and rivers flow at their natural speed, your life will evolve exactly as it's meant to. Nature doesn't rush, yet everything gets accomplished. Think about it. The sun rises and sets each day with perfect reliability. Flowers bloom only when the conditions are right, not when we demand it. The rain falls when it's needed, not when we choose, yet everything still unfolds in harmony. The earth doesn't panic. It never hurries, but it never fails to progress. We are part of that same rhythm. So, release the urge to control. Too often, we try to force life to meet our expectations. We worry when things take time. We compare ourselves to others and wonder why we're not further ahead. We question our careers, relationships, and purpose. But life isn't working against us, it's just unfolding differently. When we obsess over rushing things, we miss out on the richness of the journey. Growth isn't always visible. Trusting the timing of your life means surrendering. It means embracing the unknown and allowing things to develop naturally. It means understanding that what is meant for you will never pass you by. Just like a tree begins as a tiny seed buried deep where no one can see. It doesn't sprout leaves overnight. It develops roots. It builds a strong base before it ever breaks the surface. And when it finally rises, it stands steady, because it took its time. That tree doesn't compare itself to the tree next to it. It doesn't wish to grow faster. It just grows slowly, surely, as it was intended. We too are evolving, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. But the problem is, we often measure our growth by someone else's timeline. We glance sideways at peers, family, or strangers on social media and question our progress. But the truth is, your journey is uniquely yours. No two paths are the same. And just like in nature, your season will arrive when you are ready. So have patience, keep building, trust your momentum. Even when you feel like nothing's changing, understand that something deep within is shifting. Just like roots under the soil, you are preparing for a breakthrough. Things don't have to be visible to be real. The tree doesn't fear winter. It doesn't resist the cold or panic when its leaves fall. It rests. It waits. It trusts that spring will return. The same is true for us. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment is shaping us. Even when we feel stuck, we are being prepared for the next phase. Nothing is wasted. Not the waiting, not the pain, not the silence. Growth often happens in quiet, unseen places. It's in the moments of stillness that you develop the most strength. It's in the times of uncertainty that you gain clarity. Even when life feels slow, you are moving forward. Stop measuring yourself by someone else's clock. Your timing is sacred. Your life is unfolding perfectly. Success has no deadline. Dreams don't expire. There's no universal schedule to follow. You can start something new at 25 or 55. You can find love after heartbreak. You can discover your passion after years of searching. There's no expiration date on transformation. When we try to rush the process, we forget that the process is what prepares us. We want quick wins and instant results. But meaningful success takes time. It's built in layers. With every failure, every effort, every step forward, and every setback. Success isn't only the finish line. It's the road that got you there. It's who you became in the struggle. It's the character you formed while climbing. A seed doesn't grow overnight. For weeks it might appear like nothing's happening. You keep watering it, nurturing it, but you see no result. Still, something is happening beneath the surface. The seed is forming roots, anchoring itself so that when it finally breaks through, it stands strong. In life, we want the bloom without the roots. We want rewards without the waiting. We desire the destination but resist the journey. But true success is never just about achievement. It's about endurance. It's about patience. It's about your ability to stay focused even when there's no applause. Patience isn't passive. It's powerful. It's the ability to keep going without needing to see immediate results. It's the belief that things are working out even when you can't see how. Everything meaningful takes time. A masterpiece, a legacy, a dream worth chasing. They're built slowly, with care, with perseverance and intention. When you trust the timing of your life, you reclaim your peace. You stop chasing timelines that were never yours. You stop feeling like you're falling behind. You stop doubting your worth based on where you are right now. Instead, you start appreciating how far you've come. You start focusing on your own growth, steady, real, and deep. You trust that the delays weren't denials, they were preparation. Everything is aligning behind the scenes. It may not look like it, it may not feel like it, but you are being positioned for exactly what you need. You are being guided towards something greater. Every setback was a redirection. Every closed door was protection. You don't need to rush. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to be at the top to be worthy. The timing of your life is working in your favor, even when it's hard to see. Trust it. Trust that you are growing. Trust that the right people, opportunities, and breakthroughs are already making their way toward you. And until they arrive, just keep showing up, keep moving, keep believing, because everything is unfolding exactly as it's supposed to, slowly, intentionally, perfectly.